Hello everyone, in this video tutorial I would like to introduce one of the main features of the TineTree platform, the data threads. We're currently on the main page of the TineTree website, so we select this button in the top right hand corner to go to the platform. On the Idea Fusion Labs page we can see the main benefits of using data threads, but let's log in and experience what these data threads are. Let's create our first data thread to see what's inside. As you can see here, a data thread is just a series of data points in time. It really is an extremely simple but also an extremely powerful concept. You can imagine these data points could be, for example, someone's Twitter posts over the past year, or the global temperatures of the past century, or the daily gas meter readings in your house, anything that changes with time and anything that you want to automate, investigate or visualize. Why this simple data thread concept is so powerful is because you can create data threads from practically any source of data. But let's start with the simplest one first, manual input. All it takes to create a manual data source is for you to say, treat anything that Macaulay enters as this thread's data. So that's it. We've just created the simplest data thread. If we share it, we will enable anyone in the world or in our team to use Macaulay's input in their calculations. So instead of asking Macaulay for his opinion again and again, they can just reuse this thread as the source. Of course, in order for anyone to be able to find and use this data thread, we need to give it a name. Let's call it Canada number of trees left. And let's maybe give it a description as well. Now let's visualize how Macaulay's assessment changes over time. We use a projection. So projection is just a visual way of showing the values inside your data threads. Let's add our current data thread as a source. We want to visualize it between now and tomorrow. TineTree understands quite a bit of English, so you can just enter now and tomorrow and it will understand what you mean. And we want to show a time series. Call it Canada. Let's go. Well, as you can see, there's not much data here because Macaulay hasn't entered any of his estimates yet. So let's add one. This plot is running live, so any value that Macaulay enters gets immediately reflected in every plot, not just this one, but every plot that references this data thread. Now let's suppose that sometime later Macaulay changes his mind and decides that there are actually more trees in Canada than he previously thought, and so on. Now let's suppose that we'd like to see how many trees there are left on the planet. Let's create a new data thread. Let's start with the fact that we think that there are 1 million trees in Australia. Now this thread can use the values that Macaulay provides for Canada. And let's say we also decide to hire John Brown to keep an eye on how many trees there are left in Brazil. So Brazil and John Brown. Let's project this as a map. Let's say between now and 2 days from now. Add this as our data source. So yep, let's run this, and as you can see, this is Macaulay's estimate for Canada. This is our estimate here for Australia, and John hasn't provided any estimate yet. So let's go to John's page, trees on Earth, and let's say John thinks that there are 1.5 million trees in Brazil. And as you can see, it gets reflected on the map immediately as everything's running live in the system. We will cover data transformations in our next video tutorial, but just very briefly. Any data coming from any data source can be transformed, and that transformed data essentially becomes a data source itself. For example, we can take any data provided by Macaulay, that's me by the way, schedule it to show only one value every hour, put it into batches of 40, run a learning algorithm on it, and then use that knowledge in a simulation. So we can exploit TineTree's single model definition approach. Let's say this is some initial state, and then report the simulation, let's say every day for 1 year, then monthly for 10 years, anything you like really. So even though this data thread is composed of only two very simple concepts, data sources and transformation functions, it allows us to analyze, execute and simulate any process imaginable. But more on this in our future videos. Thanks.